Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Megan Dale. I'm a Hub liaison with HUBzero. And we also have Claire Sturm. She is also one of our other liaisons. And for those of you that have not been on a previous webinar, we kind of like to make it more of a discussion between Claire and myself, whereas one of us will be the administrator, and then the other one will just be a user, as in the use case where your users would be using the hub. So today's topic is going to be on managing groups. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. If everyone could mute their phones so we don't get any background noise, we do actually record these and place the audio file for your use, and anything that you want to review and take notes on. We actually do place those on the hub. So if everyone could just mute their phones for us, that'd be great. In addition, if you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to add, go ahead and just throw that up in the chat on the WebEx. And Claire or myself will get to them and answer them as the call goes on. So, I guess, and if it's no, go ahead and put it in the chat, or you can unmute it. But can everyone hear okay, because we are on speakerphone? All right, I've got a thumbs up, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So managing groups, what I'm going to show you from the manager side, the admin side. So what you are going to be doing is, and many of you, I think most, and if no one has set up a group ever before, this will be great. And like I said, I welcome any and all questions. But what I'm going to show you is how to set up a group, and then we have a group set up that we're going to kind of dive in and go over the details of what all you can do within that group. So you want to navigate to create new group, and this is the screen that you're going to see every time. So the group ID is required, and you are going to want to make this all lowercase and no spaces, and this is kind of a little cheat sheet for you under here. That way, if anyone wants to navigate to it, they can type in, for this case, they would type in QA200, /, groups, /, and this is what you're going to be typing. So instead of new, so I'm just going to create just kind of a generic group, and since I'm the one running this, I guess I am a mom, so I am going to call this the moms group. So I could come up with something a little more professional, but I'm just going to make it clean and simple. So then the title is what's going to show up on your actual dashboard for group. So this you can make, it doesn't have to be all lowercase. You can just create it as this is what people will go to. So they're going to go to the mom group. Here, just you can add tags. This is optional, but it just gives your users an easier way to search for the groups. So I'm going to type in mom, and toddler, right, so these tags are going to be similar to hashtags. So in this day and age, you would hashtag whatever, just so you have that common ground. So people can search by these interests or tags or hashtags, if you will. You can also, down here, make a public description for your group. So we're going to say this is a mom group for moms alike. It's up to you what you want to do for the public description. And then you can also, which both of these are optional, you can also add a private description. So for the sake of my group, only group members would see this. So I would say feel free to vent, cry, laugh, etc. So that's just something more private that just my group members would see. Then you have this option of membership settings and join policy. And again, it's going to give you a little bit of a description underneath each one. So that way, if you're not sure what each means, you can kind of cheat right here. Now, credentials, this one isn't probably used as often, but if you wanted someone to only be able to take this group, only be able to join this group let's say if they have a master's degree or something like that, you can set up the credentials that the user has to answer before they can join the group. So we're going to make this an invite only. So that means only you as the manager of this group, you get to control who joins. Not anyone can join, but you get to control. So I'm going to be inviting just one other person, and I'll show you how to do that once we get out of setting up our group. Discoverability, you can also, this is a required field, but you can also decide if you want to make it visible that anyone can find or hidden. So I'm going to hide my group. And then you can also, what's nice about your group is you can set permissions for each tab. So you're going to see all the components here listed for the group, as well as who can see each of those. So the overview, is it going to be anyone that's registered to your hub? Or I'm sorry, anyone visiting your hub, only registered users, or only group members? So typically the overview, since it's invite only, I don't necessarily want any hub visitor to see, but maybe I want registered hub users to see that, so that way if they can request an invite, if they're interested in that, then I certainly can. But this is going to be just a setting where only your group can see, or people that are in fact registered, so they're familiar with the hub itself. I don't think I want to open this up to everybody, so I'm going to say registered hub users. Now everything else as far as members, announcements, blogs, I'm going to keep that to group members only because we're all moms, right? That's why we joined this group. So I'm going to keep that open to any group member. And then let's see, I'm going to change that to group members, and then that's all set. So I've got my group settings. The group email settings, this is always automatically going to be checked yes to auto-subscribe new group users to a discussion email. There is a way that users can opt out, and so once we go through the rest of it more in detail, Claire's going to be showing you as a user how she's going to unsubscribe herself. But for the most part, it is going to be automatic that each group member, you want them to be in those discussion group emails. And then I'm going to check no to comments. And again, we like little cheat sheets here, so here's a little description. It's going to display a list of comments, comment box if users allowed. Typically, we set these to no and no. Now, that's up to you how much feedback you want to get, but everyone will be able to see that. So if you have someone that possibly isn't too happy with the group and leaving negative feedback, everyone will see that, or if you just welcome private comments, they could probably just send you a private email yourself. So I typically always leave these at no. Okay, so we've reached the bottom of our group setup. I'm going to go ahead and save the group. And now you see, this is what you're going to see. So I'm the group manager, and I have all of these settings, okay? So there's nothing in this group. So for the purpose of this call, we want to be able to manage a group. So I have one that's already been set up, and we have some content in there. So this is my webinar group, and this is what you all are. You're considered my webinar group. So here you can see that we've got a group picture, we've got a couple members, we've got some quick links set up. So I'm going to kind of dive in, and so that the nitty gritty of it was setting up the group. And now we're going to walk through kind of what all of these mean. How can you communicate now with your group? Because you want to think of groups as it's a hub within a hub. So this is our main hub. This is our QA hub that I'm showing you today. Now within that, I set up a webinar group. I may also want to set up a HUBzero user group. And the possibilities are endless. But for right now, I'm going to communicate with everyone within my webinar group. So first, I want to add members. I only have 2 members. I have myself and I have Claire Frist. So you want to navigate to the members section. And right up here in the right-hand corner, you can see that you can invite members. So this group was set up before, and I set it up as I did my previous one, invite only. So I am going to invite Elizabeth Bennett to this group. You will have to know usernames. or email addresses in order to invite your users to this group.
And just to step in while Megan's actually inviting this new user, one of the things that we suggest, and this is kind of like why we're presenting this webinar, are just kind of the key tips when actually managing groups. When you are inviting maybe even new users who don't even have accounts on the Hub to a group, you want to make sure that they understand that whatever email address you have invited them to this new group, that they use the same email address while creating a new account on the Hub. So again, just to go over that again, this situation, we could pretend that maybe Elizabeth Bennett has never created an account on the Hub. She's new to everything, but as group managers, we want her to participate in this group for the reason that she's going to be an avid participant and actually help us with the preparation of webinars. So what we would want to do is provide her main point email as the invitee, and also express to her either in a personal email or in another meeting that she uses the same email address to create her account on the Hub so that it will automatically link up to this group we've already created. Now, if she uses a different email or even a different way of logging in, for example, she uses her Google account to log in, she will have to sync a new account to that email address or communicate with us as managers expressing that she now has a different account and to invite that new account. We kind of know that this is a little bit confusing and kind of working out the bugs as we find them, but that's one of the main areas where we see a lot of confusion, and by preventing that, just simple communication can help, and then that way you don't have anyone have a bad taste in their mouth from the get-go when they're actually trying to use this group for the first time, and the Hub in general. So, that being said, I'm going to give it back to Megan and let her keep rolling.
Okay, so I have invited my user. Earlier, I invited Claire Frist, and she accepted that, and that's why she shows up here. So the group, this is going to give you a little progress bar here. It says it was successfully sent to Elizabeth Bennett, and once Elizabeth checks her email and says confirm, then she will show up here in the members group. One thing I want to add is I added Claire earlier, so I want to go to my members page, and one thing that you can do as the manager of the group is you can assign roles to certain team members. So you can see here, I'm a manager, but what I'm going to do is I am going to set up a role for Claire, and I've already done this, but I'll just make up another one. So I think the role that I assigned her was page manager. So let's say Claire's going to be my page manager, but once Elizabeth comes on board, I'm going to have her, Elizabeth, it's because I know I have people watching me. I'm going to assign Elizabeth the role of, what's a good role, Claire?
Well, maybe she could be in charge of inviting new members for you.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so she is going to be the member manager. So once Elizabeth accepts the invite, she is going to be in charge of inviting new members.
So now that role is already set up, as soon as Elizabeth now joins, Megan will be able to come to this section again, the members section, click Assign Role, and then select from the drop-down Member Manager, and then click Assign Role. And then that way, it's already been given to her, and again, Megan would communicate to Elizabeth that this is now her new position. Elizabeth could also go to the members page and see that she is under that setting. She has been given that role, but she'll also be able to see a little, if you want to go ahead and exit out, not group manager, but she'll see group member. but she'll also be able to still see that little arrow, that drop down arrow. And from there, she'll be able to invite members or go to the members page and she'll be able to see the invite members button. Now, if she was not assigned that role, she would not be able to see any of those things.
Okay, I would just want to pause really quick to give anyone a chance to throw up a question if they have any before we go on.
And feel free to use the chat system like we discussed a little bit earlier to pose any questions. And what I can do is be there for you and flag Megan down as she continues her spiel so you can answer your question in time.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I have set up my group, I have invited Claire, and I have given her a role. So I am going to turn the screen over to Claire, and she's going to kind of show you what your users will see and how to use this group as a form of communication.
So you want to pass the ball back?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So share my screen now. So everyone can see. Let me just start out of this real fast. This is where we need the elevator music, right? Okay. Yep. Good to go now. Woo! Alright, so as Megan said, I'm the group member. She's already assigned the role, the lovely task for me to actually curate and create new group pages. Now, group pages, this is an excellent way to actually present information in a clean slate that's manageable. You can use HTML to kind of design your template in your group page a little bit more and give it a little bit more character than this plain white that you can usually see if you go to the group overview page. Now, since we've kind of discussed that group pages are a key way of actually presenting information, I'm just going to go ahead and drop in real fast and explain a little bit more in detail. So the overview page is what everyone sees. There's automatically a default that you get when you set up your group that presents new members, any members that are in the group, and it also is set up so that it presents the public and private description. Now, if I were to remove this section, you would no longer be able to see those two areas because it is a defaulted macro already set up into the content of each page for groups overview. Now, the thing that I've done is added this quick links. So I just simply typed in a few words, added a link, and then dropped in where I wanted that section to go to. So then that way my group members can actually go here to complete simple tasks versus trying to navigate all throughout the hub in order to get in a certain place for them to complete their tasks. So this is one of the ways that you can actually easily communicate. You can add in notes from any meetings you have. You can actually host different links, videos, images, whatever you want in order to provide the information that's needed for that group. So, going off of that, if I were to create a new group page, let's say that I want to now present maybe some ideas that we administrators, we managers of the group have for future webinars. So I would simply just go ahead and create a new page. Now I wanted to say future ideas. And here I'm going to just suggest maybe so just adding in a few suggestions and maybe class it up or kind of add some content to it. make it a little bit of a bulleted list versus just straight text. Maybe I can add an image if I'm feeling like I need to express that in August we might be a little bit hotter, so add a sun for August. Anything you want to do to make this page a little bit more classy, or even maybe a screenshot of collections, the actual component, to express maybe to anyone who's never dealt with collections what specifically I'm talking about visually, since we do have some visual learners. Now, what I did was just create that page, save it. It's automatically going to be the child of my parent overview page. Now the key thing is too, we've kind of discussed this in the past, but this is going to be your main page. This is going to be the parent, like I said, of any other pages you have. Now you can make this the home page so that as soon as anyone gets to the group, they can actually go to this page. They will see the future ideas page. And just to express a little bit more of what I'm talking about, they would see the future ideas right here as soon as they hit the site. So this is what they would see as soon as they get to your group. Now this is if you want to totally maybe host a video, but you don't want to put it in your overview page. The one thing we suggest is that it's a lot easier to kind of keep this overview page as the main home page. You can simply edit it like what we said earlier, just by managing your group pages, and then also editing it and removing this little guy right here. And I just saw briefly, Alexander, you had asked for a little bit more information about macros. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Hi. Sorry.
Hi. So, this is one of the main ones that we host here. Now, if you want a shortcut of what ones we support, just to kind of dart back here, we actually have wiki macros that you can also add into your page. This is kind of a hack since wiki pages usually like to be left alone. But for example, let's say that my group, I have a lot of wiki fans, so they enjoy their Wikipedia and everything, and this is their main form that they like to see. And let's say that they enjoy having the links to the full article list and all of these short little links, but I don't feel like creating those already. Since this is already set up, and you can do this on any page that's already pre-set up, go into your overview and just basically copy and paste what I just pulled. It will have to be the straight source text, like what I just highlighted a little bit ago, and then go into source and throw it in there. And now wrong button. There we go. Now by going back to my page, so for me at least, it didn't really work out. But I know that, for example, if you were to add in a macro for wiki pages, you can add in sometimes the same. I believe that since I already have a little bit of syntax in there, it kind of threw it off. But, I mean, this is kind of hacked together for the overview page. I might have expressed this section a little bit poorly, but this isn't necessarily the universal macro. This is the one macro that's available for your group page. If you want to enable more macros, I would suggest sticking to this wiki page, the wiki editor section, and actually utilizing macros there. And you can actually go to the wiki macros and then find all of these areas where you can actually display timestamps and available macros that we support. So then that way you can actually build wiki syntax pages. I've had some success before by trying to implement them here on my group pages, but it seems like the style that I just pulled didn't really work out. But the one nice thing that we do offer in group pages is this nice CK editor, which is an editing HTML editor that allows you to not only view the source, but also kind of add any styling that you would like. And here's also the shortlist. Megan just kindly pointed this out to me, but this is the HTML macros that you can see that actually work for this homepage. So I guess she doesn't like my hacked version too much. So I guess I just pulled a bad stunt that way, but hey, we're all out for trying things. Anyways, what I could do though is add columns. I could add these macros, and it's a short list. It's right there on the CK editor if I need it. For example, I could pull any of the courses that I have, and just to kind of refresh, if anyone missed our last webinar, we did talk about courses. So I could actually put a link, a macro into my courses, and then that way, if I go back to my group, we could see the courses that are currently supported by this group. So our last webinar was about building this one course, Fun Facts About Purdue. Sorry about anyone who's not a Purdue fan. Maybe you'll be grateful for missing that. But it's supported by our webinar group, and so we kind of tied that in for this demonstration. But just to go back to the main point, hopefully, Alexander, you don't take my advice and try to hack things together. But I hope that that little shortcut that I just kind of pointed out, that with Megan's help, this add macro button, where you can actually see all the supported HTML macros, you can add those in by either clicking source and adding in the macro, or just straight copy and paste the macro from this section. So I want to go ahead and head back to our group. Sorry, just pausing just to check the chat real fast. I'm glad that you saw that source was something that you found useful. And it's kind of funny how we interact with these different sections of the hub every day, yet we seem to find these little golden treasures every once in a while that really help us out. And like I said, if you have your own style of using HTML, that's always the perfect way to actually source it and add it in yourself, and then kind of demo the page by just going back to this main overview and seeing how it works. So that's how I was able to see where my failing point was, but that's always beneficial. So just to kind of roll through some of the ways that group managers can really show their stuff, where they can actually provide a lot of information to their users. And it's a small community, like Megan said, so communication is key, especially when you want to have a successful group. So announcements. Megan was lovely enough to set up an announcement and put it up there. So she has this set up so that it's going to pop up during a time and date, and she's already set it up. It's archived here, so it was set up to show at 2:15, but it's archived here since she's gone ahead and unpublished it. I can't really see that information since I'm only a member, but she can actually show it here, and I can go to announcements to see what group managers are trying to express and actually see any information that she's trying to explain to me. Blogs are another way for communicating. This is again a way for a group manager to actually express information about what they're doing, what's the key focus, the big point that this group is going to focus on, any changes. Maybe this could be a place where you could set up any group meetings, minutes, actually post them here. They can be archived by month, by the year, and then that way you can kind of see what's going on, what happened in June versus what is happening later. And then it's also filtered through recent entries and then popular entries. So if Megan has a section, why I want to use a group, and I come here a lot to actually see this, I can actually go ahead and bump it up in the popularity field. Calendar is another way that we can actually show what's going on in our neck of the woods. So posting group events is very important, and also reiterating and posting events that the entire hub is hosting as well. So again, along those lines, a group is a smaller hub, but they're still participating with the general community of the greater hub in a whole. So you kind of have to be supportive back and kind of give back. So I know one thing that we've had a few use cases is where there's a smaller group in a hub, but maybe there's a webinar being hosted by the main hub. So by actually posting maybe like a specific webinar that the general QA 200 is hosting and present that information a little bit more, obviously here would help not only your group members learn more about the software and the platform that you have readily available for them here in this group, but all the capabilities that are available on the hub as an entire network. So that's always something we suggest. And again, having these nice little events, they can be downloaded and added into your own calendars if you wish. You can determine what category you want to download. Maybe I'm very interested in my community events only, so I'm going to grab that calendar, that section of the calendar, and actually download and subscribe. Subscribing meaning that I will be given any updates if there is a change in an event or anything along the lines where I need to be notified. So again, along the lines of communication, collections, this is the compiling component that allows you to share ideas, and in this case, the group manager to kind of promote communication and collective thinking here through collections. So she has one collection already built. The one thing that I can contribute back is by posting new ideas here by either clicking to start a new post, dragging and dropping a file, or adding a link. For example, maybe I want to share everyone the old webinar, or maybe a video that we could try to design our webinars off of. I can actually add that link here. So for example's sake, I'm going to go ahead and just put in HUBzero, and that's going to be my link to add, and it will show up an external link. This is now my contribution. I can go over to something that Megan's posted, comment, and say, hey, this is a great idea, thanks for sharing. And actually save it so that she can see what's going on. And then also I can kind of see the breakdown of that post that I just commented on, and see what comments have already been shared, the initial content, and the actual collection it all goes into. So collections are a great way for everyone to kind of communicate, share ideas, collaborate, and like, comment, and collect these ideas into your own personal dashboard or collection if you would like. Now, skipping over courses, going into forum, and then I'm going to pass it back to Megan to kind of talk about projects and then on. Forum is another way we can communicate as a community. For example, Megan's already started this forum thread where we're going to discuss July's webinar. So here I made the suggestion of let's talk about tools maybe and add a nice little image for character. I can add more comments to this along with editing any of my tags that I've already added to this one post. But this is an area where you can have multiple discussion threads. It's a great way to communicate. It's outside of email, so you don't have to lose anything. Everything is archived here on the Hub. Discussion threads can be managed by the group manager, and then there's that general rule of conduct to everyone be fair and polite. This is a great way to actually fuel that kind of environment and produce, again, that collaborative setting where everyone can share their ideas. I will say a little bit of suggestion here, another tip. Forum, I would say, would be your straightforward conversation. This would be for short communication or even long drawn-out discussions of one main topic. It's flexible that way. But this wouldn't necessarily be a main way of sharing content. So I know that in this suggestion, I had posted this file. I wouldn't necessarily say this should be your way of sharing files. Megan will also present a different way of sharing larger files to the entire group, which is a section on the Hub or the group that you can use. But I would suggest collections be a main way of sharing any files or content like links, actual files, because in this way I can collect this and post it on my favorites collection inside of my personal dashboard and maybe save this for later, food for thought. And then that way I can maintain this linked document in my own area, and I don't have to go to the forum to try to find this one specific file. There's a lot of clicks, a lot of links in order to get there. This is a short and easy way of actually getting there. I can simply go to my dashboard, navigate to my collections, and I can see my favorites, which now has my new food for thought here. So going back, oops, sorry, I guess I breezed too fast. This is my food for thought. This is what I had pulled from Megan. As you can see, you can still get that document if I wanted to, but for the sake of the webinar, we're going to leave it as is. But this is, again, a great way of archiving what you found and just, again, collaborating on that basic level. Well, I think that I've covered my bit for actually discussing this group. I'm going to go ahead and give Megan back the ball, and she can keep on rolling.
Okay. Okay, the question was asked a few minutes ago, can you create smaller groups within a group? The short answer is no, but what you can do is this, the projects. So projects can live within a group, and what I've done here is, so I would create a project. Oops, can you not hear me?
No, you have a pop-up that's kind of blocking the screen.
I do?
Oh, maybe that's me.
Oh, I apologize. So what you can do instead of creating another group within a group is you can create separate projects. So for the purpose of ours, I've set up our webinar group, but each project is going to be each webinar topic. So this is going to be a smaller one. So what I ideally would do is I would set this up, and then I would invite everyone today that was on the managing group call to this project. And you can see within here that Claire joined the project, and then also this is where all the files will live. So, for the purpose of this group, maybe we want to throw the webinar audio file in, or maybe we want to make an FAQ list, a frequently asked question list of all the questions that we answered throughout the chat today. So, I hope that answers your question. The gentleman that asked if you can create a group within a group, and so you can, but we just call it projects. The last thing I think we wanted to talk about today as far as managing your groups and how best to communicate, we also have resources here. Of course, you can add, Claire had mentioned to share within collections, but the resources are also beneficial as far as communicating and collaborating with your team within the group. This is where you can drop files that your community can see.
And also, just to kind of reiterate a little bit, resources is a way to actually publish not only to your group but to the entire community. We kind of built this component to focus on publishing content, why it's all like set up, ready to go out of this group is, for example, maybe we have a researching group that is focused on publishing data all focused on photosynthesis and crop production. They can actually publish any data that they have found together as a collective through resources in their group, and it will actually contribute all of the group members and the group as a whole to being the authors or the creators of this resource. So then that way they're given the credit of sharing this information with the world. Also, just a general way of actually sharing information across everyone in the group was files. So if you can navigate that way, Megan.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought this was only for managers, and so the files section. So the last way is the files here. So this JPEG that you see, this is the file that we used as our picture for our community. So any files that are associated with this group will live here, and you can find that here under files. One thing I did want to point out is, I was going to point this out earlier, but myself as the group manager, I have all these capabilities: invite members, edit group settings, manage group pages, delete group. Claire, as a member, when she navigates here, she's only going to see group member, and so she won't have all of these capabilities. So that's something to note, that you can, as the manager, you can do all of the things, whereas I had just assigned Claire the role of managing group pages. So she'll see this, but she won't have the power to delete the group or invite members as it pertains to this group. And then a couple of other things to know as far as the blog or the forum. Again, you as the manager, you have the ability to delete. So if there's an abusive post, you can delete that and edit it, whereas just the group member it is going to be able to edit and comment. So this delete button only shows up on the group manager. So just for the simple sake of, if it doesn't belong there, if it's abusive, things like that, you can control. So as far as assigning roles, using as communication and collaboration, I think that covers managing groups, and I want to open up the floor for any questions at this time.
So again, kind of just like what Megan's been talking about, we're open to any questions, suggestions, or areas you would like to see more information or hear more information about. Don't be shy, feel free to ask us. I think that one thing, if Megan wouldn't mind me taking back the ball, I am going to demonstrate a little bit more when it comes to those group pages. I actually had a suggestion earlier from one of our members to actually demonstrate what it would look like to add some source code into an actual page. So if I can go ahead and navigate back to our group. I'll be able to go into here, open up my page, again click source, and just real fast if I can humor everyone for 5 seconds. Megan, do you have a good joke?
I'm all out. One thing I did want to note though, I think a good resource for everyone that we forget about, and I always encourage everyone to bookmark this, is if you navigate to HUBzero.org and go to documentation, that is a great tool that you can have for quick reference. We try our very best to get all of the documentation with screenshots and things like that up there, but you'll find a lot of your answers to your questions there. So I always encourage everyone to just throw that up in your bookmark bar, just so it's there for you for a quick reference. Of course, you can always put tickets in and ask us as well. But you know, if you want a nice light read of how many thousands of pages, you can always reference that.
Okay. Had to divert a little bit. Okay, now to get back. Alright, so just to get back where we were, we're just trying to actually demonstrate it one more time. Going back to our group pages, manage the page, going into there and adding that macro, and actually showing what you can add your macros again right here. For example, this one will show hello world if we add there, but I could even pull a file and actually post it there. So that was one of the questions asked. Can you actually link a hard file in here? And I think just reiterating what Megan's already said before, files, it's a great way, it's a great component to actually share hard files. But if, again, you want to give your users kind of like that shortened version, you can go ahead and publish it, any files that you upload here, as a direct link in there. And that way, all I have to do as a user is just go to this page, click that link, and be taken directly to the files where I can either open it, download it, anything I need to do. So, good question there. So I know Megan's talked about a lot for member side, and just one more thing I want to reiterate is I can manage my group pages now since she's given me that permission, but I can also cancel my group membership. Now this is an option just for group members to see and actually be able to have that access. She recently also gave me the permission to edit group settings. So that's another role she assigned me, where I can actually go into the group details and change anything. So for example, maybe we would like to open our group up a little bit more to the world, open to anyone, or maybe restricted so that they have to be approved by the group manager. I can change these settings now since she's given me that permission through assigning a new role to me. But like always, being able to kind of curate what your users are seeing and force them into a little bit more of a tighter section so they're not necessarily overwhelmed. Less information is always more information, so cutting down some of these areas that you don't think you'll use, or your group they're not interested maybe in publishing any resources, I can go ahead and disable it as off. Even if I determined that we didn't need to share the overview page with everyone except the group members, kind of like what Megan said when she was setting up her other group. But I can kind of turn these areas off as need be, and then that way we don't have to worry about seeing them when we're in that group. So then that way it cuts down a lot of what we're seeing, and then that way as a group user I know just to come here to talk about collections through projects versus dealing with everything else that was available in that lengthy long list. So we haven't had any brave souls chime in any questions, so either it means we did a fantastic job of explaining everything to everyone, or everyone's tired of our droning and moaning about listening about groups. Here at HUBzero, we're here to help you, we're here to serve you and allow you to utilize our open source platform to the best of your abilities and your users' abilities. One of the main suggestions that in kind of conversational bits we run into is how do I grow my community? How do I keep users coming back and wanting to participate on this fun open source area where they can collaborate, talk, discuss everything that they need to do to complete a task either for a project or for research here right through their browser, easy ticket window. One of the suggestions that I have would simply be starting to put yourself out there a little bit more. Go to conferences, promote yourself, go ahead and set up any social media sites. I know that Twitter is one of the more prominent areas right now where users seem to be looking not only for their personal profiles, but you have different big businesses already a part of Twitter and utilizing that as a way to quickly communicate across everyone straightforward ideas. So for example, I can show everyone our HUBzero page that we have on Twitter where we try to promote not only our webinars but anything that's happening with our other hubs in general. So trying to promote, be out there, invite people, this is a great way to at least get yourself out there on the whole market in general, and then that way you can kind of let the internet do the work for you. But that being said, this is a great resource to use. I would strongly suggest it if you are kind of finding issues with building your community. Try to go outside of the hub and be a little bit more interactive, not only with groups that you know would enjoy this, but maybe stretching out your neck and trying to see where do you benefit, where are the gaps in your user group, and trying to reach those generations or populations and try to pull them into utilizing this as a resource for their research and communication. Well, we're about out of time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hopefully everyone found this to be useful. We're kind of, again, here, we're in the baby stages of presenting these webinars. We are happy to hear any information. If you have comments, a few comments or two, go ahead and leave them in the chat while we're finishing up. We hope to contact you soon and present more webinars. Next month in July, we're going to try and host a tools session, so kind of actually presenting how do you create and actually wrap tools using our Rapture toolkit, and then submit tools so that your users can use them on the Hub right through their browser interface. So those are the areas we're focused in right now, and we hope that you will be back with us next month to participate in that webinar. Other than that, we'll go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much for your participation, and hope you have a good afternoon. Thanks.